There's not a team in the world that will invite their owner down to the pitch and he'll celebrate it like he's a part of the team.
Hello and welcome to episode 24 of the First4LCFC podcast, and it's a very special one as we are reflecting on becoming the winners of the FA Cup final. The FA Cup for the first time in our club's history. So it's been a fantastic day. We've all about recovered, I can imagine. But I'm joined with Ed and Austin today. Austin's not been with us in a while. So Austin, firstly, over to you. How are you feeling over in the States in the light of history being made?
I'm still wondering if what I watched actually happened. It was a special day. It's been a special week for the club. I mean, it couldn't have gone more perfectly until Allison just ruined it. But yeah, what a perfect week it was.
And just to give our listeners a bit of insight, what time was it that you what time was kickoff for you in the States?
It was 12:15.
Okay, so it's not too bad. It wasn't an
Yeah.
absurd time or a late one or a particularly early one. So that's fair enough. And Ed, more of a relaxed sort of guy you are. I'm sure you're absolutely fine, and you expected us to win yesterday.
I never expected us to win. I think my prediction was actually my prediction was nearly excellent. Didn't I say it would be 1-1 at full time and Chelsea would get an equaliser?
Well, if only, you know.
Well, no, I'm quite happy to be proven wrong in this instance because actually, if that didn't happen, I don't think we would have got the same buzz. Like that was like the perfect ending to the game.
Well, if you think about it, yeah, I mean, I think I put in the group that if we concede, we went all out for a 1-0 win in 90. Like, I dread to think tactically how an extra half an hour of football would have potentially looked with the players we had on the pitch. But I mean, in terms of an emotional roller coaster, the highs and the lows, back to the highs immediately. I mean, it's fair to say we're all huge fans of VAR following that. But Austin, again, you need to paint a picture for us. Where were you? How were you watching? How were you reacting? Were you hiding behind the sofa? I mean, we've not spoken to you in so long on air. Talk us through the Tielemans goal and then the Chilwell drama and then the full-time whistle.
Yeah, I was just kind of sitting in my room watching it on my TV, but like for those of y'all that haven't known, this is my first game that I watched since the semifinal because it's been midweek and it goes into my work schedule. So I haven't watched a game in a good month, and like watching that game, my heart rate had to be 140 the whole time. I was absolutely so nervous and so anxious. And then when that Tielemans goal went in, thanks to Krys, he decided to ruin it before it went in because he tweeted out. So I kind of knew it was going in, but I still went crazy. And obviously, when the Chelsea goal happened and then got disallowed, I was probably laying on the floor trying to pinch myself, make sure that didn't actually happen. And I mean, I was a whole bunch of emotions that whole game.
It's interesting you should say that your heart rate was you thought 140, which is obviously extremely high. I think Jamie actually told us in the group as well that his Fitbit thought he was on a jog because of his activity in the stands, which I presume is all innocent. If you're listening, Sarah. But Ed, were you quite as energetic? I think you said you did a knee slide in the kitchen. Is there much truth in that?
I won't comment on these rumours. But yeah, I did let out a macho scream when very masculine it was when Tielemans scored. And likewise, I did shout at the TV, "He's off!" when the replay first came on. And then I was like, I didn't even know if they had VAR in the FA Cup final. So I was messaging like, "It's offside. Do we have VAR?" Because like they said, like they may have checked it for the Perez handball for Tielemans' goal, but I was too busy celebrating, and I don't know if it came up on TV they were checking it or whether they just did it fast. But I don't remember anything getting checked. So I was like, part of me was thinking, "Oh my God, Chilwell scored an offside goal and it's going to count because it can't be checked." And then everybody said all along VAR is shit, but deep down we all knew that it's a great piece of technology and truth will out and justice for Leicester City.
Okay, I'll make sure we clip that up when Leicester get done by VAR. But we can all agree that on this occasion it's done us proud. But in relation to the Perez one, I did listen to Peter Walton, former referee on BT Sport, who said the reason it didn't get reviewed by VAR is because it's not immediately after or even leading up to the goal. I think it was like a certain amount of seconds, obviously, before Thomas then got the ball and fantastically assisted Youri Tielemans. But the reason it didn't get reviewed is because it wasn't apparently immediately, in inverted commas, leading to the goal, which I can sort of understand. I mean, obviously you'd feel hard done by. Yeah, but I'm not sure if either of you managed to watch Thomas Tuchel's sort of post-match interview. I can understand why he wouldn't. I was still watching all of the coverage until the end. But yeah, I mean, he seemed agitated, obviously, but he was adamant that, Leicester, I think he actually said Leicester did not deserve to win the game. He was adamant that Chelsea were creating plenty of chances. But if it was the same game I was watching, I think Chelsea obviously, had great spells of possession, but they didn't really threaten us until obviously in the second half where Kasper pulled out two fantastic saves. But I mean, as Leicester City fans, I think it was refreshing that we saw a performance where we stayed resilient. Obviously, Evans goes off early, which was always going to be, a risk. But I think then Wesley Fofana really stood up for his responsibilities in the middle of defence, and I think the whole team pulled together. But Austin, I mean, look at it from a Chelsea point of view before we look at it from Leicester side of things. Do you think they can feel hard done by that they didn't come away lifting the trophy themselves?
I mean, I think they're going to be upset, but I mean, they just didn't take their chances in the end. I mean, Werner had a couple chances. They had one where the ball kind of ricocheted around and Werner missed a header that would have been hard for Schmeichel to save. But I mean, obviously they're gonna talk about VAR and that's gonna be the thing. But I just don't think, in the grand scheme of the game, that they had clear-cut chances, and I just don't think they created enough.
Well, and I think ultimately as well, as I've just referenced, Schmeichel, two incredible saves. So, I mean, obviously, in terms of man of the match, Youri Tielemans gets it, and you can understand why. I mean, he was instrumental in terms of moving the ball, moving possession, and ultimately got the winning goal, which, that's sort of a dream goal that any player would imagine or want to imagine scoring at some point in their career. But, you look at Kasper Schmeichel and just how important were those saves. And just, I mean, to put things in perspective, I mean, Kepa didn't have literally anything to do all game. But when called upon, he didn't really get anywhere near that Tielemans strike. Whereas Schmeichel keeps his, wits about him and pulls off two fantastic saves. So, Ed, just how important, were they in the grand scheme of things? Because obviously everyone talks about the attacking end, but we didn't really offer that much in terms of creating chances. So, I mean, we've got to take our hats off to Kasper. So just how important has he been, for Leicester City throughout his career, as well as the final, really?
That soundbite off Alan Brazil, like one of his best bits, where it was like he asked the longest question in history.
Was that long? I'm not sure.
It wasn't short. But yeah, if you want to know how important I felt those two saves were, well, I think if he didn't save them, we would have lost 2-1. So in that sense, they were quite important saves. Like, literally decided the game, and they were excellent. I do think, agreeing with Austin's point about the match, like I don't really care what they say at full times, because both teams nearly always, unless it's one-way traffic, says they think they were the best. But to be honest, Chelsea probably were the best team. At least they played better than us. They had more of the ball. But they didn't do anything with it. Like either team really, it wasn't a game of many chances. Like the actual amount of clear-cut chances was very low, and we have a moment of magic at both ends, both in terms of Casper in goal and Tielemans up front, and they don't have that little bit of magic, and that's the difference at the end of the day. And so I don't think they can be too hard done by. We had one chance and they had two. We were more clinical. So unlucky lads.
Say that, but I mean, again, it's a near on impossible question to answer. But do you think this final was a good game for the neutral to watch? Because I'm not really listened to anything like, well, neutral, like any radio stations, to be fair, or anything since in regards to the game. But I mean, what do we think? Like, was it a good final? I'm not sure, Austin. What do you think?
I mean, for both teams, I think it was a good final. But for the neutral, I just don't think there was a lot of action in terms of chances. So I think in terms of your question, I'd say no. I didn't read Twitter from a neutral perspective, so I really don't know. But I think it could go down as one of the best finals in terms of everything that happened, especially at the end. But I think for the whole game, it wasn't the best watch. It wasn't the best watch looking back at it.
Well, yeah, I guess because we came away from it obviously thinking like that's the best thing ever. But you can see, but you've got a worldy goal that's should be involved in any FA Cups, well, FA Cup final highlight reel certainly, and then obviously a drama at the end. We could have had a penalty or a red card maybe to spice things up for the neutral. But I mean, I'm not sure if our hearts could handle much more, especially if it was given against us. But I mean, interestingly, talking about statistics, which we haven't done a lot of so far, so I want to drop a bit of a knowledge bomb in there, is that there's only 6 clubs in England who have won the Premier League, the League Cup, and the FA Cup. I mean, there's no prizes for guessing. I'm not going to ask who you think they are because it's evidently the big 6, if you like, and not Spurs. But obviously that includes Leicester City now. And Ed, obviously off air this morning, you were saying that you think Leicester are very close to sort of almost securing that big 6 status. So what was it that you said, or what do you think Leicester City now need to do to sort of establish themselves as a big 6 club?
I essentially said like we can say that we're competitive with these teams on the pitch, but history and money, you can't argue against that. So realistically, we're not off the pitch. But I was saying now we've got, it's one thing winning a trophy, and it's another thing getting in the top 4, but then it's another thing being able to do both and show that you can sort of be competitive in more than one competition. So I think obviously the next step is finishing in the top 4. But if we can do that again next season, and I'm not going to say we're going to defend a trophy because the odds of that are even smaller than they were of us winning it this year, but if we can get top 4, back-to-back top 4s, including a trophy, and finish above Arsenal and or Spurs again, then it becomes increasingly difficult to argue that these teams who we've been finishing above, or at least very close to in the last year, who aren't winning trophies, I don't even know where Arsenal are now. What are they, like 8th, something like that? Like, you are getting to a stage where it's not just Leicester fans with their blue tinted glasses on saying that Arsenal, Spurs, we're no longer inferior to them. Like we're in a position where one more good year of consolidation and we are literally where the owners have sort of tried to put us. Like, we don't want this to be a year like after the title winning season when it all went a bit shit other than the Champions League for a year or two. Now we want to kick on And yeah, kicking on's not winning more and more because that's unlikely, but at least cementing ourselves in amongst it.
I think it's interesting what you've referenced. You mentioned the owner a couple of times, or at least the owners of other clubs as well. And I think what makes us an enviable sort of club to not support if you're not a Leicester City fan is the fact how good our owners are. Obviously, you've got top, the chairman, and the owner of the football club. But obviously, the late Vishai, who evidently was shining down upon us yesterday in terms of the outcome. With that wonderful banner was displayed in Wembley, and we've certainly made him very proud. And that was his vision from the off. But I think looking at it from a non-Leicester City sort of point of view, you've got owners like Daniel Levy at Spurs, or obviously Kroenke at Arsenal, and you can understand why supporters of both those clubs would be envious of Leicester City. I mean, you can see how good Brendan Rodgers has got it. He's got full autonomy, probably, of which signings are coming in and out. And that's why when it comes down to a discussion of, will he be leaving to Arsenal or Spurs, I honestly don't regard them as competitors for a managerial spot when you're managing Leicester. Okay, from a playing point of view, there's an argument maybe for Spurs. I can't entertain an argument for Arsenal in where they're at right now. But the point being, look at the scenes at full time. Look how much it means. Look at the players and their bond with the owner. Can you honestly say, you've got like the Sheikh at Man City, but I'm not he probably would be at the final if he could be. I'm not sure, to be fair, if he's been at past finals. But do you honestly see him getting invited down onto the pitch and the players sort of embracing him and it meaning that much to him? For me, what makes us a top six club? Maybe not top six. Well, certainly it was very competitive as a top six team now as well. But a top six club is the core, the foundations which are in place at Leicester City are absolutely solid. And I think you could put up a good argument. You look at teams like, biggest club in the world, Man United. Their training facilities and their ground, their infrastructure, if you like, is so dated. Sure, when it first came out in the late 90s or maybe early 2000s when things were getting updated, they were leading the way in football. But now, if a player goes to, say, Man United's training facilities and he comes to Leicester's, I'm not saying this is what's going to make him choose Leicester, because realistically, Man United, huge club, fantastic, big history. But Leicester are competing at that elite level in world football. And obviously, Austin, you look at a lot of sports, a plethora of sports, all things American, English, whatever. So can you put things in perspective as Leicester City owners, just how well managed the sports club is, if you like, in comparison to what you hear about like American football teams or anything that's on the other side of the pond, if you like, just to show how good we are on a global level.
I said this yesterday, and I said that there is not a better owner in sports in the world than ours, and I'm not being biased in that. And I forgot who said it. It might have been Rio that said it yesterday. He goes, "There's a difference between these clubs that they back their clubs with money and they back their clubs with manager, but there's no face." And like you said, there's not a team in the world that will invite their owner down to the pitch and he'll celebrate it like he's a part of the team. Like, he is a part of the club. He's a part of the city. He's a part of the community. He is by far the most involved and the most liked owner that I've ever known in any sport that I follow.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's quite a succinct answer, but I think you've got the point across, and I think that is it. It's like, in certain aspects, seeing is believing. Like, he literally, comes onto the pitch. The players are waiting for him. That you can see they're all looking up to him. They want to bring him down. The cameras were showing him hugging, embracing, like that. A special moment between, I think, Tielemans. It was almost emotional for him.
Emotional for you?
Well, I think at that point I was just loving anything I was seeing on my screen, to be fair. But the point remains the same, that it was special, and obviously it's nice to see. But something else that I think what made me the most teary, if you like, I'm not ashamed to say this, is the moment when I was wondering who they were waiting for. They had that huddle on the pitch, didn't they? In front of all the Leicester City fans, which were very lucky to be there. We have to mention that. but that huddle, and then when Vardy comes running in, I think that for me that is probably the most sort of emotionally charging moment. But again, it's stuff you don't see like this. Like say, I don't really remember what happened when Wigan won the FA Cup, albeit it was only like 8 years ago, so it's obviously very modern. But I just can't. I don't ever remember. And again, this might be a biased comment, but when Man City or Chelsea or Man U or anyone in recent times, and in front of a full stadium as well, so they'd have thousands of their fans. I don't remember them, literally charging up to their fans and really embracing it like what we did. Obviously, we saw Vardy like geeing up the crowd during the game when it was still on. I think probably before we scored. I think when he was just raising his hands, trying to sort of get that energy behind us. But no, I just don't remember. I think it's refreshing, and I've seen the only comment I've seen a few times on social is like Leicester are everyone's second club. Obviously, they're not literally, but you can see why Leicester's a very likable club. Austin. So, and obviously, you got into. If you just want to remind our listeners of how you got into supporting Leicester, because I can sort of see the similarities why this FA Cup win might bring another sort of, flood of followers or supporters, if you like, because just remind us of your background supporting Leicester.
So, after the 2014 World Cup, the U.S. Had a pretty successful World Cup. We ended up losing to Belgium, but the NBC ran some ads, which at the time was relatively unknown. Was Jason Sudeikis would play a character called Ted Lasso, which is now a show on Apple Plus. But he, at the very end of the second one, he goes, "I want to be the head coach of Leicester." And I was looking for a club to support, and I didn't want to follow a Big Six club because that's just not me. I'm not a bandwagoner, as you call it. And I was like, okay, I'll support them. And that's how I became a fan. So and a lot of the American Leicester City people I talked to, that's kind of how they did it too. Like, I wasn't the only one.
I mean, in all honesty, like, to be fair, I thought that Ted Lasso, whatever it's called, I've seen adverts for that, but I wasn't actually aware that was that old. But obviously, in terms of the whole timing of things, that would have been off the back of obviously Leicester City's great escape, and then obviously what no one would have expected is us propelling to the opposite end of the spectrum and then winning the Premier League. But I mean, that in itself would have put Leicester City on the global map of world football. But the FA Cup inevitably is still watched by millions across the world, and everyone does love an underdog. So it's only a good thing, isn't it, in terms of a branding exercise or just putting Leicester City on the map, because it's things like this which will cement us. People will mention Leicester faster than they'll mention Arsenal or Spurs, especially like teenagers or people who don't appreciate what Arsenal were like when they were the Invincibles or anything like that. There's no reason that people growing into football now would regard Arsenal or Spurs as a big club, because they'll just look at the league table and be like, well, no, you've got teams like Leeds, Everton, West Ham all in and amongst it. So no, it is good. But obviously, that's just one of the benefits of becoming an FA Cup winner. But, another thing, obviously, I've mentioned it, and this is turning into a very large question again, Ed, before you mention it. But the fans were allowed back in. And I think it only took me about 2 minutes to hear just when we were booing, basically, every time Chelsea had possession. I think the fans were just eager to get involved with anything, to be fair. But just, how good is it to well, in our case, probably hear the fans rather than the dubbed sort of crowd noise. But ultimately, just to see fans back in live football, Ed, how good is that?
It's great, mate. I liked it when they were when Werner skied it, and they were all like, "Wee!" Good banter, isn't it?
It is. It's just things like that you do forget, because whoever's job it was to play the obviously dubbed audio they never really nailed the satire behind some of the chants in football.
Yeah, the booing of Chilwell also made me humoured me. These kind of little. I don't think it's ever really. Some people don't like it, but I think it's just part of like the theatre and the pantomime of it all that I'm sure there's some people who literally hate his guts. But like these sort of little things, it's just entertaining, makes it more interesting, gets you more involved. So it's nice. Obviously, we saw with Liverpool when they won their Premier League for the first time in forever last year, and they had to lift it in front of an empty ground. Like, as humorous as it was, like, and as much as we would have liked more Leicester fans to be able to see us winning the cup, obviously it's great that it wasn't a completely empty stadium. Otherwise, that would have just been a bit, what's the word, anticlimactic.
You are right, and you've also mentioned, and I jotted down. I guess we would have mentioned Ben Chilwell anyway, because that's quite a pressing topic. But in terms of I don't think any of us are surprised. Albeit I did try and raise a discussion of you guys in the chat last night that were we surprised at his exuberant celebration, if you like. But I said I don't get offended by former players celebrating. I think fair enough. Like, you've literally moved on. Like, you're allowed to celebrate. And in the grand scheme of things, I mean, he literally thinks he's played a pivotal role in a dramatic equaliser. But in the light of comments he made in interviews leading up to this weekend, Austin, and his celebration, clutching of the Chelsea badge, and just, I don't know, let's not be silly. Like, when a footballer scores, he ain't gonna be thinking rationally. But what did you
want to tell everyone what his comments were? Just for context.
I think he made a few comments, but the only one I've seen, and this is because Jamie sort of highlighted on his Twitter feed, was whilst he was still at Leicester, I think he's seen Thiago Silva being linked with Chelsea, and obviously he didn't speak about this at the time, but obviously he's come out now and said, like, he saw those links and he just thought, wow, how good would it be to sort of be playing alongside someone of his calibre next season. But I don't think it's a secret in terms that we knew Ben Chilwell's head was turned. Obviously, it's still not nice to antagonise or to be antagonised, especially not in the lead up to an FA Cup final. But for all we know, that, metaphorically, if not anything else, would have been pinned up on the changing room wall and just said, like, look, go and prove a point. He's gone on to win trophies at Chelsea, he says.
Do you want me to give you another quote that he did say recently?
Yeah.
He said, we lost to them being Leicester, earlier in the season, which was the lowest point of the season for him. And then he went on to say, to play them in the FA Cup final, there's probably not been a game in my career that I want to win more.
And like I said, he went there to win trophies, and he's just I don't think he even get a runners-up medal in the FA Cup, which is unlucky for him. But no, so Austin, in relation to the question I did ask, I mean, were you offended? Do you find a spot in your heart for Chilwell, or are you just saying, unlucky son, we won, you go and celebrate, but it means nothing ultimately?
I wasn't offended. I was more kind of annoyed, I think would be the better word for it. Because it's like there's not a bigger game you want to win in the FA Cup final, which I agree, like, it's a final, but they have a Champions League final in a week or 2 weeks. So it's like you would think you would want to win that more too. But I mean, yeah, it was just poetic the way it ended. Him celebrating like he just equalized, and then his face after the game, and then him just standing there watching us lift the trophy, and then of course an hour later he's all smiles with our players in our dressing room. Like, that's the most Ben Chilwell thing ever.
Okay, hold on, wait. First and foremost, I mean, that is news to me. Is that official? Has he been spotted? Was he?
He was spotted with Madison and a couple of our backroom staff smiling after the game.
Okay, this is interesting. Obviously, me and Ed, you should remember, we spoke about this and we said, would he do it on the pitch? And understandably, realistically, post-final, you're not going to do that. But, interestingly, as you mentioned, the clique, as you so lovelily, that's not a word, but nicely said. Yeah, I mean, are you shocked that even in the light of all those comments, he's, the Leicester boys are laughing and joking around them after? Do you think there's a bit of a facade? Is it a bit of is it a bit of a front that he puts onto the media, almost for entertainment value?
Yeah, I think his comments then was just to get a rise out of the fans and maybe the players. Because obviously him and Madison have a bromance that is, I don't know how to describe it, but
Probably best
yeah.
not described. But no, Ed. Ed, what do you make of it? You are our chief correspondent on bromance, so yeah, tell me.
I'm not surprised. Like him and Madison are just like. I think he probably just missed him. Like I said last time, I think he's like, when's the next cup of tea going? Like, I don't know. I think he just wants Madison to join Chelsea, to be honest. And then the other person's Ward, who I don't really care for. Like, he can talk with whoever he wants for me. Maybe the coaches aren't going to leave, so I'm assuming the other people surrounded around him are coaches. So if they want to talk to a player that they may have worked with for the last 10 years, then that's fine. But I don't know, it just seems a bit odd to me.
I think it's odd. I understand the friendship thing. Like, obviously, like, say, me or us guys on the podcast, if we unrealistically played for a professional club or whatever, and post match, it's not like I won't ignore you guys, would I? So fair enough, they've done it behind the scenes, but I don't know. I guess it just goes to show a bit into a footballer's mentality. Like, there's some players who would probably be that distraught at losing the final, they wouldn't actually be in the mood. Not because it's personal against their friend, but they just wouldn't want to be like having a laugh after the game. I think that's like a bit representative of the sort of footballers we are sort of breeding, if you like, in terms that they're not. Maybe the cup has lost its magic, like you say.
Not to a Marty, mate.
Mate, I was going to say that was going to be my little segue there. He has just gone to the opposite end of the spectrum. Obviously, there's a serious undertone. Obviously, in the light of what I'm about to explain, he has received a lot of racist abuse online, which is never acceptable, and it's not at all good or okay. But obviously, in what he did, he had the Chelsea pendant, a traditional, you exchange before the game, and he's been filmed on Fofana's Instagram live post-match. Jokingly, it's not like he's not stood on it or spat on it or done anything disrespectful. Yeah, he's sort of tossed it over his shoulder, if you like. So Austin, I mean, first and foremost, I mean, when I watched it, I just thought, you can't be doing that, especially not on camera. is my honest opinion. Like, fair enough, if you're doing that behind closed doors, like, yeah, we're all having a laugh. Like I say, it's not offensive, or it's not. You define offensive, but it's silly, isn't it? Above all else, I think, Austin.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. When I first saw it, I was like, "Oh, it's not a good look." And then what kind of made it worse is that whoever was filming live went stopped streaming live right after he did it. So it's like the person kind of knew that what he did wasn't good. I wouldn't be shocked if he does a apology soon. But I mean, like you were saying, like he didn't rub it in the ground. He didn't do anything like terrible with it. He just kind of flipped it behind him. And it was kind of funny with the song playing too. I think that was the whole point of it. But yeah, it just wasn't a great look for him.
It's not, and I think a lot of non-Leicester City fans won't actually really know who Amati is, to be fair. He hasn't really featured that heavily, so I think that probably rubs people up even worse because they're like, who is this guy? He hasn't actually done anything in the final, especially. But then again, Ed,
I literally don't care.
You don't care. I did feel you'd have that sort of
imagine it if someone did that to a Leicester thing. Like, would you actually give a shit?
Yeah, but it's what I'm trying to think. I'm trying to get into the mind of. I don't think any neutral fan cares, but I'm thinking if someone did it to Leicester, I do feel I'd be annoyed at that player.
I don't think I would, because he's just a guy from Ghana who probably doesn't I just looking at him and he just I don't know. Are these things? I mentioned where he's from for a reason. Like, are these sharing of these?
Are you trying to say that it's a British thing that it's not you won't understand the traditional value?
Yeah. I'm saying it's a bit of material with a badge on. Like, is this a universal thing that everyone apparently sees it as a sign of respect and it has meaning and all of this, or is it? And if you watch the video, he's just being a knob, like not even like a bad knob, just being like, oh my god, I can't believe we've won. I'm just gonna be silly. Like indeed, he was being a weirdo as well, like putting that silver stuff over Iheanacho in his like people just do, they're buzzing, like the
Iheanacho was
adrenaline, their
balancing
vibe.
the base of the FA Cup on his head, which I found.
Yeah, people do weird stuff when they're elated, and I genuinely just don't think he thought about apparently this thing has meaning. So he was just chucking things around, enjoying himself.
Yeah, I don't think there was any malice in it. I think we can all agree on that, and it's not just us being Leicester fans. I mean, I didn't look at it and go, "Wow, that's malicious." I just thought, "Don't do that live on camera." Like, don't.
Someone will take offence to it, I guess, these days. So
That's the thing. That's the worst thing. I introduced this with the racial undertones of what the consequences of what's happened is the fact. I don't think people will be offended by it. I think people will, unfortunately, just use it as a scapegoat and bandwagon on it. All these like anonymous troll accounts to lay into someone for next to no reason. And we're not going to get into a debate about social media, but I do strongly believe that something does need to be done in regards to policing of social media a lot better. I don't think a 72-hour or whatever blackout has particularly combated anything, as this instance has proven. But nonetheless, that's not our discussion. Let's hope that gets sorted out. But no, there was no malice in anything. Everyone, like I say, everyone's elated. And look, we've got a right to celebrate. But we will be back at Wembley, even though someone tried to tell me that it wouldn't be at Wembley, and I naively believed maybe it won't be, I don't know, but there's no reason why it shouldn't be at Wembley.
Oh shit, I've only just realised what you're about to say.
We're going to be playing the Community Shield. I think it's still called that. It's always been called that. Against Man City. They're the winners of the Premier League. Obviously, last time we played in it, we were the winners of the Premier League, and we got defeated by Manchester United. I think Zlatan. Scoring on the day there, I seem to remember. But no, yeah, we'll be going back to Wembley, and hopefully, providing that June the 21st comes and goes successfully, there's no reason why it can't be in front of a full crowd this time as well. So again, Austin, you're more clued up than Ed, I'm guessing, and you'd have been thinking about this second date at Wembley. It only dawned on me this morning, but I mean, it's a reason to be excited, isn't it, ahead of the new season?
Yeah, I think any time you can play for any piece of silverware, especially against Wembley, it's always a fun thing to do. And it will be the first time that, at least club-wise, that you'll have full fans. So then that makes it even more special. I mean, is a Community Shield a big thing to win? I don't know.
It will be if we win it.
Yeah, if we win it, it will be. If we lose it, it doesn't matter. But but still, you're playing against Manchester City. You're playing for a piece of silverware. I mean, you're going to be excited, especially if Wembley's full with 80,000 people.
Well, yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think, yeah, one thing, the fans obviously hopefully fully returning, but also it's typically a glorified exhibition game where you get, as fans of the two clubs, you get a better idea of the sort of players that are going to be featuring heavily looking at opening day. And yeah, ultimately it's an excuse of a day out, hopefully. But Ed, I'm not going to ask you to preview the game, but I'm not really sure what I'm going to ask you either. But I mean, is it something that ultimately it's something you look forward to, though, isn't it? It is an exhibition final, if you like.
Yeah, it's just like it's a friendly, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's not. I don't think it's. Well, you're not going to count it.
Yeah,
although if you're playing Football Manager, you like to count it as part of like a
absolutely
Super win or something.
Absolutely, but I'm not on for my sextuplet this year, and I don't think Leicester will be either.
That's just after winning like the Bangkok Cup against like 3 League Two teams, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I don't think we'll win it. If you want a preview, and to be honest, I don't really care. If we do win it, I won't yelp at the same amount that I did when Tielemans scored. I literally, I honestly couldn't give a shit. like what the score was. It will be at Wembley. It's good to be. It's one of those games where it's nice to win, but it's just nice to be involved because you've obviously got to have won something to be involved. You have a shot at another trophy, and as long as people don't get injured or you embarrass yourself, then it's a semi-marquee game. The world can watch us in a Wembley with a full stadium, hopefully against Man City. Probably the last friendly before the season starts. So, like you said, I'd probably be most interested in sort of the new players that may or may not be featuring then. It's sort of your first chance to see them against a quality English side. So we'll see what we've brought in. Yeah. Well, when I say I don't care, obviously you win it and it's a nice little buzz, but to be honest, I'd probably be more excited at the fact we beat Man City than the fact we won the Community Shield, because I don't care that much about it.
There's an honest reflection, but no,
you care about it.
Well, not from a silverware point of view. Obviously, I've banged the drum, and actually, I've given myself a bit of praise. Actually, finally, does winning a trophy, mean a lot to me? Yes, it does. It's a discussion we've had since this podcast probably started like 2 years ago. I would love to see Leicester win a trophy, and it's the next thing I was going to speak to you guys about is. We won the Premier League, and I tweeted the poll earlier. Like, what would be bigger, winning the Premier League over 38 games? So it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And obviously there was many highs and lows, or mainly highs in that season, obviously. But the elation of a cup final, I don't think can be matched, Austin. Like, so from your point of view, obviously that was in the infancy of you supporting Leicester. You was on that roller coaster, but then compare that to just 90 minutes of pure sort of just whatever yesterday was, and can you, like, winning a cup final as a supporter, can you just underline what that actually means for you in comparison to obviously winning in the Premier League, which is unbelievable in itself?
I mean, when we won the Premier League, it was the first time that any one of the teams that I supported won a title. But I think what made this thing more special was that we won it. Because when we won the Premier League title, it was Chelsea. Like, if we would have won it at Old Trafford against United, I think it would be maybe better than it was. But I think the fact that we didn't really win it, and the fact that this was one game and we won it, and the way we won it, like, I mean, I was going to ask the question to y'all. It's like, what season was better? Like, when we won the Premier League, or if we end up finishing top 4 with an FA Cup? I mean,
that's what the poll was. I've not got the results to hand, to be fair, right now. I'm sure Ed might be looking at it now, but I think I wouldn't be surprised if it's an alarming sort of victory for people thinking that the Premier League title win is bigger, and I myself did vote for that. Just because I think what it came down to for me is, one, that it was totally out of the blue. Obviously, 2, it's over 38 games, so we're the best team in England, or if there was any Welsh teams in the Premier League, in the Premier League over that period of time. But ultimately, because what it meant to the club sort of moving forwards, it's something that's going to be ingrained in history forever. Anyone can win the FA Cup if you like, but for me, the barrier to winning the FA Cup is lower. But I think it meant a lot to Leicester fans purely because we'd never done it in our history. And also, we haven't even reached a final or a semi-final in so many years. But I'm just glad we won a trophy, because you can see how much it means to the players. And it will play a role in terms of development of the team. It'll bring the team together. And now they've got a taste for silverware, hopefully, like, I tweeted, semi-tongue-in-cheek, next Champions League. And right now, it seems like a long way away, but ask me the same question in 3 or 4 years' time, and I'm hopeful that we're going to be a consistent qualifier for the Champions League, and each season that goes by, we'll be one step closer to getting another piece of our sort of trophy cabinet completed. But, Ed, you was always adamant that you didn't you really care for the FA Cup. You know, it's all aboard the top four sort of train, if you like. But can you now sort of maybe see that as a supporter at least, that you surely have to agree that the elation you get from actually winning a trophy it will be greater than just finishing in the top four.
I've always said to you, here's some background info for those listening, and Austin. I've always said the biggest buzz, the moments of actual elation that of all football that I've experienced, I think is like England, like knockout football in like the World Cup and the Euros, and that peaked like for Trippier's goal against Croatia. And obviously Leicester winning the league is a much bigger story than England getting to the or at least a much bigger surprise than England getting to the semi-final and scoring a goal of the World Cup. But like you say, it's the cup football, whether it's Leicester or England, when it's knockout, it's all on that game. There's so much more riding on it, and there's so much, all that adrenaline and buzz and emotion is crammed into a 90-minute, or even if there's extra time, 120-minute, whatever period. And you experience all those highs and lows at such an accelerated rate. Whereas with the league win, at least from like some sort of emotional response, like obviously it was utter elation when we won it. We literally never thought it would happen, at least for 50, 60 years, like being realistic. But it was drawn out over a whole year, and every week it was building and building. And if we didn't win one game, when we could fix it a week later, even 3 or 4 days later, or we could rely on other results and we'd be fine. And even though it was a constant high near enough that year, it was drawn out. And that's why I think, like, I'm not going to ever debate. I've always said top four is more important, but I won't for a second debate that a top four finish would evoke more of like a response for me than a cup win and a worldie from 25 yards into the top corner, because it's not going to happen. Like, you are on edge for that it's do or die, and we did, and I celebrated.
Well, yeah, I think you've raised some very important sort of points there, which I think many of us will be in agreement with. I think, in fact, 77% of people said that, yes, the Premier League title will be more important or regarded as better for them. But I think a lot of people will have the same thinking or the same reasons. But then there are the traditionalists who maybe grown up as children, like my dad especially, or anyone, would have always had this massive value on the FA Cup. But I do think that's sort of been tarred a bit in the fact that it's no longer the only game on that day. It's no longer like a 3 p.m. kickoff. I think it used to be treated with a lot more respect, if you like, as an occasion.
Do you think it would be bigger if they dropped a Champions League place from the league and gave it to the FA Cup winners?
Yeah, but I was thinking this as well. But you tend to find by the end of it, obviously maybe not this year, no disrespect to Southampton or maybe us in that sense, but yeah, it wasn't just the best or the traditional big four clubs, was it? But typically you tend to find that even in the League Cup that, you know, the best teams do sort of end up being there or thereabouts. And I don't know if you can justify just qualifying for the Champions League off the back of what, five.
At least you're a champion of something.
Yes, I mean, yeah, there's a whole different argument that, yeah, a winner of something deserves it more than a fourth place team. Ultimately, that fourth place team does still have to qualify. So, yeah, no, it's a valid point. We won't get into that because
just a thought.
But a bit of good news or potential good news is that both Sionchu and Tielemans are apparently in, I'm not going to say advanced, but certainly in talks with the club extending their contracts, which could be just as important as a new signing. Obviously, you'd like to see, maybe you players like Fofana, Fafana especially, probably just put pen to paper on, contract extensions, which will probably have huge buyout clauses or just things that will, guarantee a bit more security for the club and for the supporters. But obviously at this stage, it's just rumours, but it's positive. And again, I think that's another thing that our club does so well, is that we don't leave business to the last minute like Arsenal have in modern times, or other clubs where you see players run out their contracts and, But, fingers crossed for that. But now, actually, one last thing, right? I'm glad I didn't mention this earlier on in the podcast because I think people would potentially switch off. And I don't mean this in any annoying way, but the little bit of criticalness in me, it's not critical because the goal was fantastic, right? And
sounds critical.
you can't, you put it on a postage stamp. But is it just me, or do you think that if Tielemans was going to place that ball on the ground, did it seem like he was a bit at full stretch to you, like technically speaking, for that shot? Obviously, it ended up being fantastic and great goal. But like, do you think that, if anything, it's a compliment to Tielemans that he's managed to control the ball as well? But I mean, if anything, he just seemed to let go of the ball a bit out of his space, or is that just me being a bit weird looking at it like that?
I think you're being weird, mate.
It just seemed like he was.
It wasn't a full thwonk. I get what you mean. He obviously hit it hard, but it was almost like a placed hard shot.
Yeah,
like, more of like a long ball or a goal kick.
It did have that. It did have a bit of a spray can notion to it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's a great goal. I'm just saying that, it's he seemed at full stretch, which, if anything, makes it technically even harder. But no,
Austin, do you think Krys is being weird?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's one word answer. That's all we need. But no, something I do want to criticise, actually, how horrific Jorginho in that instance was, in terms of just pointing at Tielemans, like, let's go close him down. And then obviously you can't. I think it's Thiago Silva. Obviously, if he steps out any sooner, he's leaving the pass on to Vardy. But Jorginho, if that was Kante, right, in his position, there's no way he's just looking at him going, oh no, it's all right, someone else can take over. I think that's just, if Chelsea, their fans should be raging, never mind the potential handball or whatever, but you've got a player within 5-10 meters who can at least put pressure on him, and the fact that their manager, or you don't hear any of their supporters going, what was Jorginho doing? It's embarrassing at professional level. I think that's just not good. But either way, it doesn't bother us. It was a fantastic goal. I was just, having watched it about 100 times, just ended up thinking that he was at full stretch for it. But all great technique.
You know what was good? A random talking point. Werner's clearing header that Aspilicueta would have 100% scored.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't do that little flick. That was like an open goal from a couple of yards.
Yeah, I did think this. Inevitably, he probably would have got a shout, but there's no way. How weird would it have looked if he just ducks out of the way and then say, Aspilicueta's not there, for example? There's no way an attacking player isn't taking that on. It was just a bad header, above all else, an attacking header. It was not a glancing sort of thing, but all good. Keep that coming, Werner. But no, now we look forward to playing Chelsea again. So it's a bit of a weird one to preview, and I'll offer my probably useless opinion from a Chelsea point of view. And when previewing the final, I said Reece James is going to be the biggest threat for Chelsea, but he ended up playing as part of, he basically didn't play as attacking as a wide player.
He was a centre back. Yeah,
he was a centre back. So I would fully expect him to then start on the wing and create, a lot more trouble. I mean, albeit the battle between him and Vardy never really went anywhere, but I think he sort of did have the better of it in the couple of instances. So yeah, he had a good game as a centre back, but I think he's a lot more sort of potent as an attacking threat, or at least he has been recently. Isn't it? Would you agree with that, Austin?
Yeah, I think Aspilicueta is the one more suited to play center back more than Reece James, for sure. I didn't fully agree with playing Alonso at left back. I thought they should have played Chilwell to start. I thought they should have just sent Chilwell and Reece James forward the whole game, putting pressure on our two center backs, especially when Johnny Evans got hurt. Because once you had Albrighton and a young Luke Thomas out there, I thought that was a perfect opportunity for them to attack those wings. But when you don't have Chilwell and you don't have Reece James out there, like, it just did not help them at all.
Well, yeah, and I think obviously that as soon as Chilwell comes on, they have that out ball, and obviously, well, they did create a big chance and obviously scored a goal in some sense from it. But Ed, I mean, I guess it's hard to preview. I mean, how would you look at it from a Leicester point of view? Would you make any changes?
Well, I think it was essentially the best team that we could. Maddison probably starts. Obviously, I can only imagine Evans is not going to be starting. But other than that, you just play the same team. I think more changes will come from Chelsea. I think playing James at centre back, it made sense, and it did completely nullify Vardy. Like the couple of times he even had a chance at going on a run, like James is rapid, so that's like completely killed that off. But it was obviously a very defensive move because James is an excellent sort of fullback or wing back, and at the end of the day, now Liverpool's won. If Chelsea don't beat us, then it's not going to be down to them on the final day of the season. They're going to need results to go, like relying on other teams. So I think they're going to have to be a bit more attacking. And if I was in charge of them, and I've won lots of trophies on Football Manager, so that's my credentials. I'd start James and Chilwell from the off, real attacking wing backs, and then whoever our fullbacks is near enough can't attack all games, or game, not games, and that nullifies a lot of our threat. But at times at the weekend, I felt we were playing a hell of a lot of long ball football, and it just wasn't working, or it didn't work. It gave them the ball back a lot. So I'd definitely do that. I think we need to work on our defensive shape as well, because Mason Mount was like, if they had a striker who's worth his salt, Werner was cack as per, but like Mason Mount was just like standing between the strikers, between our defenders and our central midfielders, and just receiving it all the time. And they just needed one person to make one good run and a good through ball, and they're essentially in every time. So I think we need to tighten up a little bit at the back, and if they go a little bit more attacking because they need the win, it could be a different game than, well, it will be a different match obviously, but the game could look and feel very differently in terms of tactics in the week.
Yeah, no, I think you've probably mirrored mine and Austin's opinion in the fact that, Chelsea ultimately have to come out and play. I do expect them to sort of start those wing backs as well, as you alluded to. It's just my concern is more, yes, that does mean that, traditionally that will allow for Vardy to probably be more influential, but it's how we deal with, players like Mount, who he was dragging, Sionchu out of position and just receiving the ball at will, really. And if they have a better striker, I don't know, someone like Giroud, starting or something.
Tammy Abraham.
Because I love Giroud. It could be a bit different. Someone who's a natural finisher, basically. All jokes aside, I think, will there be one goal in it this time round? Probably not. And as I look to offer my prediction, I'll get the ball rolling. I do see that there's going to be more goals in it. I'm sort of between two scorelines at the moment. It's either 2-2 or 2-1 Leicester. 2-2 seems like more of a realistic one. But I'd just imagine getting 3 wins over Chelsea in a season, but 2 in the space of a week. I'm going to go with 2-1 Leicester, I think. It was my initial prediction for the final, so I guess I'll go back on that. But I just think that, yes, they are going to come at us with more vigour, But I do think that'll also allow us to certainly, have a lot more chances than we did in the final. And I don't think it will be hinged on a wonder goal this
That
time. I
would
think,
guarantee Champions League football with a game to spare.
but it won't, will it?
Yes.
I think that's only if Liverpool didn't win today.
No, because we're a point ahead of Chelsea.
No, a win for us Tuesday will guarantee us Champions League.
Oh, will it? Well, in that,
Yeah.
It wouldn't guarantee his top 3, but it would guarantee top 4.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, no, well, in that case, then sorry, I must have been looking at a different table. Yeah, then in that case, yeah, if that gets us into at least a playoff, then
No,
yeah.
it'll go straight into group stage.
What, coming fourth?
Yep.
Is it?
Yep.
And there we go. Is there any reason for that this season?
No, it's been that way for the last couple of years.
Has it?
Yep.
Must have again been following a different sport. It seems. I could have sworn that fourth is obviously it's coefficients and that is it probably nothing even to do with coefficients. I just thought that fourth was not automatic, but
I believe all the top 5 leagues, the top 4 get in straight into the group stage.
Absolutely schooled, and that's the beauty of it. But I'm going to keep trying to drag myself out of the dirt here. But you're going to prove me wrong probably again, but we will still be seeded fourth. Is that right, Austin?
I believe third. If we come fourth, I believe we will still get seeded pot 4. If we come in third, I think it will come into coefficient if we go 2 or 3, but I could be wrong there.
Okay, well, there's some pride restored for me. So let's get the heat off me. And what do you think the score is going to be on when even is it, Tuesday or Wednesday?
Tuesday.
Tuesday. What's the score going to be?
I don't want to say what you said, but there's going to be goals in it. I don't know if I said this earlier, but this game's going to go either we're going to come out with fire and they're not going to be ready and they're going to be still sulking on the final, or vice versa. We're going to be over celebrated. They'll come out with fire. And so I think that way, I think we'll come out with fire as long as we haven't over celebrated, which for our team, that's tough. Yeah, so I'm going to go with 3-1.
3-1. Well, that's even more confident. And then Ed, are you going to round off a trio of victorious predictions or not?
I've just been looking at this year's qualifying rounds for the Champions League. I thought that in fourth had to qualify as well. This is obviously, of course, never doubt Austin.
I will say France only gets their top 2 in, but they're the only Big 5 league that doesn't get 4 all in.
No, yeah, Austin is right. I'm not saying I'm pretty sure it used to be fourth, but obviously it's changed at some stage. So, yeah, fourth does guarantee top 4 according to this. Well, that's a stupid thing to say. Fourth does guarantee group stage football. But yeah, right. I'm concerned about the game because I feel that actually there were chances for Chelsea if they were at it. You know, a little bit less magic from Casper, a little bit more luck with the Aspilicueta chance, a little bit more informed striker, and they could have scored 2 or 3. And they're obviously, it's at Chelsea, isn't it? I think. I think they're going to be up for it because it's literally you don't win and you're relying on other people messing up on the last day. You're making it very hard for yourself. And I don't know. Even a draw would be great for us because it would at least put it in our hands on the last day, although it was in our hands on the last day last season and that went well. Not. I'm going to go for a draw. I think you'd be interested to hear that we are the third favourites to get in the Champions League spots between Chelsea, Liverpool and us.
Okay.
Liverpool with the bookies are the favourites, despite the fact they're fifth and 3 points behind us with 2 games to go. And then it's sort of, because they've got 2 nice fixtures, I cannot emphasise it like that. Alisson goal was obviously ridiculous that a keeper scored, but if that didn't go in, we would have needed like one result and it would have been completely done with. Even a draw at Chelsea, I don't know if it would have been mathematical certainty.
Yeah, a draw at Chelsea would have guaranteed us if Liverpool drew or lost.
Yeah, so it would have needed like 1 point from 2 games. It's like, that is a massive goal and it's thrown it wide open. And they're going to be at it and we're going to be at it. And I don't know, I feel more nervous about this game than the FA Cup, because for those who listened the other day, like, I wasn't overly confident about that, and I just thought it's a bit of a good day out, and it'd be great to win. But if we don't, we've done great to get here. I guess this is the opposing side of the cup versus league situation. It's like all or nothing in the cup, but actually in the league, like, that would be so much more disappointing to miss out. I think weirdly the high of winning in the cup is higher, but the low of losing in the league from this point may well be lower, because if we lost it will be 1 game in the cup, we'd be gutted, huge opportunity, but it's 1 match and it may have been a good performance from Chelsea and we say, you know what, fair play. But if we lose from here, something we've gone at for nearly a whole year, invested in, put ourselves in such a strong position, and lose it at the end again, that would be like really gutting.
Well, yeah, and I think as we've mentioned in the past, there's no guarantees that players will be staying just based on winning the FA Cup. In fact, there's probably no reason they would stay based just on winning the FA Cup, because they've got their medal now, they've got the memories, and they're not got Champions League football. But nonetheless, fingers crossed that we do get the job done. Austin, I'm going to come back to you just with one more potential banana skin for this qualification lark. What about if Chelsea won the Champions League but didn't come in the top 4? Would just 5 English teams not have to qualify for the Champions League group stage?
I think the max amount of teams is 5 in it, but I don't know if Chelsea or City win and finish top 4, I don't know if 5th will get you in.
It won't.
No, sorry, I don't mean 5th will get you in. I mean, would say Chelsea came 5th but won the Champions League, would 4th have to then qualify?
No, top 4 would still get in, I believe.
Yes. There you go.
Yeah.
That's me dropping that point now. I've made my efforts with it, very much so. But no, thank you again. It's been a bit of a bumper episode.
I'll tell you what, if we're looking at the league, by the way, want to make a point. West Ham have fallen away, haven't they?
I don't want to comment on things, because us and West Ham could still end up playing in the same competition next year.
It's more of a personal point. You were laughing at me. You said when we made our predictions of where people would come at the end of the teams would come, you were like, Noon hates West Ham. Because I said, and I look back that I said they'd get like 60, I can't remember exactly points, like 63, 64. And then they've only won 1 of the last 5 matches. They've lost 3 of them. They've dropped off.
Last year.
Pardon?
Similar to us last year.
Well, where we came 5th, like the likelihood of them coming 5th is, the chance of them coming 5th is now tiny. We can only actually come as low as 5th, so at least we've been stable in the league.
Let's all congratulate Edward on predicting that West Ham all going to fall away at the end of the season.
Oh, I'm just saying, like, at this stage, if the worst you can come is fifth for a second season in a row, and you've won a cup, it's pretty hard to argue that you're not at least the fifth best team going at the minute. So
it's just what everyone wants to be. Not good enough for the Champions League, but we are the fifth. We're the first best non-Champions League team.
Best of the rest is not bad. It's better than being the worst.
Yeah, no offence, Sheffield United, who are actually, at time of recording, I believe they're winning against Everton, which is, always nice to see. Go out on a high. But no, anyway, fingers crossed. I said this at the end of the last episode. Fingers crossed we're back reviewing a victory, previewing dead rubber at the end of the season against Spurs. But we shall see. Thank you for listening. No idea when we'll hear from Austin next, so savour his voice in this podcast. And have you got any final whisperings, Austin? How do you feel about this podcast? Do you enjoy yourself again?
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. It's been 6 months, especially. It's nice to talk about the men too again love talking about the women. They've done a great job this season playing in the WSL.
I don't think many the listeners might not understand what you're on about.
So I also talk about the LCFC women on Beyond the 90 with Hannah and James. We're usually doing wrap-up shows. They've done a whole bunch of player interviews this season. It's great stuff. You just go check it out. But they're playing in the WSL next season. They won against United in the FA Cup today. We won the FA Cup on Saturday, so it's definitely the best weekend ever.
Okay, Austin, we'll just charge you 15 quid for that shout out afterwards. We can organise that by PayPal if that's okay. No, but on a serious note, obviously congratulations. Yeah, we haven't referenced Leicester, the women, and obviously congratulations on a fantastic season. It's not yet over for them.
It is over. FA Cup got moved to next season.
Oh, well. Well, there you go then.
Have you not been following the success of the
what's
women?
happened here? I thought they were still in the cup competition.
Yeah, no, club competition was done before the match today. They were done 2 weeks ago when they played at the KP.
Yeah, but so are they in a cup or not?
No, the FA Cup got moved to next season because of COVID. They couldn't start until like January with all the preliminary stuff, so it got moved to the end of next season. Or the next round is the late September, I believe it will be.
That is strange, but nonetheless, it doesn't take away congratulations. Obviously, they'll be playing in the top tier of the women's game, and I think ultimately the whole thing is going in the right direction, and it's good to see, obviously, Leicester being a part of it. So, yes, as Austin says, if you wonder where he is, he's probably doing a lot more for the women's game. So, yes, do get involved with that side of things. Follow Austin on all of his socials because he is very much so on the ball. But yes, thank you again for listening, and wish you a good week ahead, and speak soon, guys.